Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. The mist clung to the forest floor like a spectral shroud, obscuring the gnarled roots and fallen branches that threatened to trip the unwary. Timothy moved through the eerie landscape with practiced ease, his boots barely making a sound on the damp earth. The ex-soldier's weathered face was a mask of concentration as he tracked the trajectory of the mysterious object that had streaked across the night sky mere hours ago. A faint glow pierced the gloom ahead, and Timothy's hand instinctively tightened on his energy rifle. He crouched low, using the twisted trunks for cover as he approached. The source of the light became clear, a sleek escape pod, its hull cracked open like some otherworldly egg. "Damn," Timothy muttered, his gravelly voice barely above a whisper. He'd hoped for salvage, not complications. As he drew closer, a figure stirred within the wreckage. Timothy's breath caught in his throat. Lying amidst the debris was the most captivating woman he'd ever seen. Her skin was a rich emerald green, seeming to shimmer in the pod's flickering emergency lights. A tattered white dress clung to curves that would make a saint question his vows. But it was her face that truly arrested him. Delicate features twisted in pain, eyes fluttering beneath long lashes. Timothy warred with himself. Every instinct screamed to walk away, to maintain the isolation that had kept him safe on this god-forsaken rock. But something in the woman's vulnerable beauty reached past his defenses. "You'd better be worth the trouble," he growled, carefully lifting her from the wreckage. She was surprisingly light in his arms, her skin cool to the touch. A faint, intoxicating scent surrounded her, something floral, yet utterly alien. The trek back to Timothy's fortified home was arduous. By the time he reached the concealed entrance, his arms ached and sweat beaded on his brow. He punched in the access code with his elbow, cursing as the door took its sweet time to open. Inside, Timothy gently laid the woman on his spare cot. In the harsh light of his living quarters, he could see the extent of her injuries. Nothing life-threatening, but enough to keep her unconscious for a while. He set about cleaning and dressing her wounds, all the while acutely aware of her otherworldly beauty. "What have I gotten myself into?" he muttered, shaking his head. Hours passed. Timothy alternated between tending to his unexpected guest and pacing restlessly. When her eyelids finally fluttered open, revealing eyes of liquid gold, he found himself momentarily speechless. Where am I?" Her voice was melodic, with an accent he couldn't place. Timothy cleared his throat. "Safe, for now. I found you in a crashed escape pod." The woman tried to sit up, wincing in pain. I can't remember. How did I get here?" "That makes two of us, sweetheart," Timothy said dryly. "Got a name?" She frowned, concentration etching lines across her perfect forehead. "Mary. Yes, I'm Mary." "Well, Mary, I'm Timothy. Welcome to the ass end of the galaxy." A ghost of a smile played across her lips. "Charming. Is that how you greet all your guests?" "Only the ones who fall out of the sky," Timothy retorted, surprised to find himself grinning. It had been a long time since he'd engaged in banter. "How are you feeling?" Mary gingerly tested her limbs. "Sore, but alive, thanks to you." She fixed him with those mesmerizing golden eyes. "Why did you help me?" Timothy shrugged, suddenly uncomfortable under her gaze. Seemed like the right thing to do. Don't read too much into it. "Of course not," Mary said, a hint of amusement in her voice. "I wouldn't dream of mistaking basic decency for anything more interesting." Timothy felt heat rise to his cheeks and cursed inwardly. He was acting like a green recruit, not a battle-hardened veteran. "You should rest," he said gruffly. "I'll get you some water." As he turned to leave, Mary's hand shot out, grabbing his wrist. The touch sent an electric jolt through Timothy's body. "Thank you," she said softly. "Truly." Timothy nodded curtly and retreated to the kitchen area, desperate for a moment to collect himself. He splashed cold water on his face, trying to shake off the strange effect Mary seemed to have on him. When he returned with a glass of water, Mary had managed to prop herself up against the wall. Timothy couldn't help but notice how the simple movement had caused her dress to slip, revealing more of her flawless green skin. He thrust the glass towards her, perhaps more forcefully than necessary. "So," Mary said after taking a long drink, "do you make a habit of rescuing damsels in distress?" Timothy snorted. "Hardly. This planet isn't exactly a tourist destination. And yet, here you are," Mary observed, "a man alone in the wilderness. There must be a story there." "Nothing worth telling," Timothy said flatly. "What about you? Any memories coming back?" Mary's face clouded. "Fragments, flashes, but nothing concrete." She looked up at Timothy, vulnerability clear in her eyes. "I'm scared. I don't know who I am or why I'm here." Despite his best efforts to remain detached, Timothy felt a pang of sympathy. "Look, you're safe here for now. We'll figure it out." "We?" Mary raised an eyebrow. My, Timothy. Are you offering to be my knight in shining armor?" Timothy rolled his eyes. "More like your reluctant babysitter. Don't get any ideas." Mary's laughter was like music, sending an involuntary shiver down Timothy's spine. "Wouldn't dream of it," she said with a wink. As the days passed, Timothy found himself increasingly drawn to Mary. Her quick wit and playful banter chipped away at his gruff exterior. He caught himself smiling more often than he had in years, but with the growing attraction came a gnawing sense of unease. Mary was changing. Subtly at first, her skin seemed to glow with an inner light, her already enticing scent growing stronger and more alluring. Timothy found it harder and harder to maintain his composure around her. One evening, as they shared a simple meal, Mary leaned in close. "Timothy," she purred, "have I done something to offend you?" He nearly choked on his food. "What? No. Why?" "You've been so distant lately," she said, her golden eyes searching his face. "I thought perhaps I had overstayed my welcome." Timothy shifted uncomfortably. "It's not that. It's just, there's something different about you. Can't you feel it?" Mary tilted her head, considering. "I do feel strange, more alive somehow." She placed a hand on Timothy's arm and he felt heat rush through his body. "Is that such a bad thing?" Before Timothy could formulate a response, a deafening explosion rocked the building. Instinct took over, and he tackled Mary to the ground as debris rained down around them. "Stay down!" he shouted, already reaching for his weapon. The door to his sanctuary burst inward, revealing a group of heavily armed figures. "Well, well," a gravelly voice called out, "looks like we hit the jackpot, boys. The princess and her new pet." Timothy's mind raced. Princess? He glanced at Mary, who looked just as confused and terrified as he felt. No time for questions now. He opened fire, his energy rifle cutting through the smoke and chaos. Years of combat experience took over, and Timothy moved with lethal precision. But these weren't ordinary bounty hunters. They were well-trained and relentless. As the firefight intensified, Timothy caught glimpses of Mary. To his amazement, she wasn't cowering in fear. Instead, her eyes blazed with an otherworldly light, and she moved with inhuman grace, dodging blaster fire that should have cut her down. One of the attackers got too close, and Timothy engaged in hand-to-hand combat. It was brutal and desperate, but he managed to subdue his opponent. Pinning the man to the ground, Timothy pressed his rifle to the attacker's throat. "Talk," he growled. "Who sent you?" The man laughed, blood bubbling from his lips. "You have no idea what you're dealing with, do you? She's not just some random alien. She's royalty, And her season is coming. Those pheromones of hers? They'll drive every warrior in the sector mad with lust and rage. Her family wants her contained or eliminated. Timothy's blood ran cold. He looked over at Mary, who stood amidst the carnage, her white dress stained with soot and blood. She met his gaze, and for a moment he saw something ancient and powerful in those golden eyes. "Timothy," she said, her voice thick with emotion, I remember. They're right. I'm dangerous." He made a split-second decision. "We need to move, now. This place isn't safe anymore." As they fled into the misty forest, leaving the smoldering ruins of Timothy's home behind, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life had irrevocably changed. Whatever Mary truly was, whatever power she possessed, he was now bound to her fate. And as the alien moons rose over the twisted trees, casting an eerie glow over Mary's shimmering skin, Timothy realized that he wouldn't have it any other way. Timothy paused their trek through the misty forest, leaning against a gnarled tree trunk to catch his breath. Rain dripped from the twisted branches, soaking them both. He glanced at Mary, her emerald skin glistening with raindrops, and let out a sardonic chuckle. "You know, I'm starting to wonder what I've gotten myself into here," he said, running a hand through his wet hair. "When this season of yours kicks into full gear, how am I supposed to keep my wits about me? I'm only human, after all." Mary tilted her head, a mischievous glint in her golden eyes. "Are you afraid, Timothy? Worried you won't be able to control yourself around me?" "Me? Afraid?" Timothy scoffed, but there was an undercurrent of tension in his voice. "I've faced down entire platoons of Zarknath shock troopers. It's you who should be worried." Mary stepped closer, the heat from her body a stark contrast to the cool rain. "Oh? And why is that?" Timothy swallowed hard, suddenly very aware of her proximity. "Well, you're stuck out here with a grizzled ex-soldier who hasn't seen a woman in years. Aren't you scared I might take advantage of the situation?" In response, Mary closed the remaining distance between them. Before Timothy could react, she pressed her lips to his in a passionate kiss. He froze for a moment, then found himself responding with equal fervor, years of pent-up loneliness and desire flooding through him. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Mary leaned in close to his ear. Her whisper sent shivers down his spine that had nothing to do with the cold rain. "You don't need to hold back, Timothy," she purred. "I'm not afraid. You can do whatever you want with me." Timothy's heart raced, desire warring with his sense of duty and lingering suspicion. But as he looked into Mary's eyes, he saw not just lust but a genuine connection, perhaps even the beginnings of something deeper. He cupped her face in his calloused hands. "This is crazy, you know that? We barely know each other. You're an alien princess with some kind of pheromone superpower, and I'm me." Mary placed her hand over his. "Maybe it is crazy, but right now, you're all I have in this universe. And I trust you, Timothy. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." Timothy nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Together, huh? I like the sound of that." He glanced at the darkening sky. "We should find shelter for the night. I know a cave system not far from here. It'll give us a chance to dry off and figure things out." As they resumed their journey through the rain-soaked forest, a new intimacy had formed between them. The barriers Timothy had built around his heart over years of isolation began to crumble. And though danger still lurked in the shadows, for the first time in a long while, he felt a spark of hope for the future. The cave's damp chill seeped into Timothy's bones as he stoked the small fire, casting flickering shadows across the rough stone walls. Mary sat huddled nearby, her emerald skin seeming to pulse with an inner light that grew stronger by the hour. Timothy couldn't tear his eyes away from her, equal parts captivated and unnerved. You're staring again, Mary said, a hint of amusement in her voice. Timothy grunted, embarrassed at being caught. Can you blame me? You're practically glowing. Mary stretched languidly, her tattered white dress leaving little to the imagination. A side effect of my condition, I suppose. Does it bother you? Bother isn't the word I'd use, Timothy muttered, trying to focus on tending the fire. A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the crackling flames and the distant patter of rain outside. Timothy found himself relaxing despite the precariousness of their situation. There was something about Mary's presence that put him at ease, even as it set his nerves on edge. Suddenly, Mary gasped, clutching her head. Timothy was at her side in an instant, concern etched on his weathered features. What is it? Are you hurt? Mary's golden eyes were wide with shock. I remember. Timothy, I remember everything. Over the next hour, the truth spilled out. Mary was indeed a princess, heir to a vast interstellar empire. But her emerging powers, the ability to manipulate emotions and loyalties through pheromones, had terrified her family. They saw her as a threat to their rule. They sent me away, Mary said, her voice thick with pain, not to protect me, but to use me. They thought my powers could destabilize enemy factions. I was to be a living weapon, a sacrifice for their ambitions. Timothy's fists clenched. Bastards, he spat, using their own flesh and blood like that. Mary looked at him, a sad smile on her lips. You're angry on my behalf. That's new. My own people saw me as nothing more than a tool. Yeah, well, I've seen enough of that kind of thinking to last a lifetime, Timothy growled. He hesitated, then added, Back in the Galactic Wars, I was part of an elite unit. We were sent on suicide missions, expendable assets in the eyes of our commanders. I watched good men die for pointless objectives, all in the name of some politician's agenda. Mary reached out, placing a comforting hand on his arm. The touch sent a jolt through Timothy's body. Is that why you came here? To escape? Timothy nodded, surprised at how easily the words came. Couldn't stand the hypocrisy anymore. Figured I'd rather face the dangers of an uncharted world than keep playing their games. And yet here you are, risking everything to help me, Mary said softly. Their eyes met, and the air between them seemed to crackle with electricity. Timothy found himself leaning in, drawn by some irresistible force. Their lips met in a kiss that started gentle but quickly blazed into something passionate and primal. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Timothy's mind was reeling. Mary, we shouldn't. Your powers, they're affecting me. I can't trust my own judgment. Mary's eyes flashed with hurt, then understanding. You're right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. A distant explosion cut her off, followed by the ominous whine of approaching aircraft. Timothy was on his feet in an instant, grabbing his weapon. They found us. We need to move now. They fled deeper into the cave system, Timothy's enhanced night vision guiding them through twisting tunnels. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew louder. As they emerged onto a narrow ledge overlooking a vast chasm, Timothy realized they were trapped. End of the line, he muttered, scanning for options. Mary's voice was calm, almost eerily so. Not quite. Before Timothy could react, she stepped to the edge of the cliff. Her skin blazed with emerald light and the air around her shimmered with power. With a gesture, she created a bridge of pure energy spanning the chasm. How did you? Timothy began, but Mary cut him off. No time. Run. They sprinted across the ethereal bridge, energy bolts from their pursuers sizzling past. As soon as they reached the other side, Mary collapsed the bridge with a wave of her hand. Their attackers were left stranded, shouting in frustration. Timothy caught Mary as she sagged, clearly drained by the effort. "That was incredible," he said, awe evident in his voice. Mary managed a weak smile. "Told you I was dangerous." They pressed on, eventually finding refuge in an abandoned temple high in the mountains. As night fell, Timothy set up a defensive perimeter while Mary rested. "You should get some sleep too," Mary said, patting the space beside her. "You look exhausted." Timothy hesitated. "I don't know if that's a good idea. Your powers—" Mary's expression softened. "Timothy, I promise I'm not trying to manipulate you. What I feel for you, it's real." After a long moment, Timothy relented. He settled down next to Mary, her warmth a stark contrast to the cold stone floor. Despite his reservations, he found himself relaxing. "Tell me about your home," Mary murmured sleepily. "Before all this." Timothy closed his eyes, memories washing over him. Not much to tell. Grew up on a mining colony in the Outer Rim, joined the military to escape, see the galaxy, ended up seeing more than I bargained for. "You must have some good memories," Mary prodded gently. A ghost of a smile played across Timothy's lips. "There was this time on Zeta Prime. My unit was pinned down by Sith forces, outgunned and outnumbered. Things looked hopeless. Then out of nowhere, this Jedi Knight shows up. Never seen anything like it. One woman against an army and she carved through them like they were nothing." Mary listened, enraptured. What happened to her? Timothy's expression darkened. "Don't know. Last I saw, she was holding off a platoon of dark troopers so we could escape. Probably didn't make it." Mary squeezed his hand. "She sounds brave. Like you." Timothy snorted. "I'm no hero, sweetheart. Just a soldier trying to survive." "You're my hero," Mary said softly, snuggling closer. Timothy wanted to argue, but exhaustion finally overtook him. He drifted off to sleep, Mary's warmth a comforting presence at his side. The peace was shattered by the temple walls exploding inward. Timothy was on his feet in an instant, blaster in hand. A squad of heavily armed mercenaries poured through the breach, led by a towering figure in gleaming black armor. "Well, well," a modulated voice boomed from behind the mask. "The prodigal princess and her new pet. How touching." Timothy fired, his shots deflected effortlessly by the leader's energy shield. "Mary, run!" But Mary stood her ground, power radiating from her in waves. "No more running," she said, her voice resonating with otherworldly authority. "I am Mary, rightful heir to the Emerald Throne. You will leave us in peace." For a moment the attackers hesitated, clearly affected by Mary's pheromones. But their leader seemed immune, laughing coldly. "Your little tricks won't work on me, princess. I've come too far to be swayed by pheromones and pretty words." The battle that followed was chaos incarnate. Timothy's years of combat experience served him well, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. Mary fought alongside him, her newfound powers devastating against the rank-and-file mercenaries. But their leader was a force of nature, shrugging off attacks that should have been lethal. As the fight wore on, Timothy found himself back-to-back with Mary, surrounded by enemies. "Any more tricks up your sleeve, princess?" he panted, his energy rifle running dangerously low on charge. Mary's eyes blazed with determination. "Just one, but it's risky. I need you to trust me, Timothy." He met her gaze and nodded. "Always." Mary closed her eyes, concentrating. The air around them began to shimmer and distort. Timothy felt a surge of raw power unlike anything he'd ever experienced. When Mary's eyes snapped open, they were pools of pure, blinding light. What happened next defied description. It was as if reality itself bent to Mary's will. Their attackers were thrown back by an invisible force, their weapons crumbling to dust. The temple shook, ancient stones floating in defiance of gravity. At the center of it all stood Mary, radiating power like a newborn star. When it was over, their enemies lay scattered and unconscious. Only their leader remained standing, his armor cracked and sparking. "Impossible," he rasped, staggering backward. "What are you?" Mary's voice echoed with otherworldly resonance. "I am what you feared I would become. Now go, tell my family that their weapon has turned against them. The next time we meet, I won't be so merciful." The masked figure retreated, leaving Timothy and Mary alone in the ruined temple. As the last echoes of battle faded, Mary swayed on her feet. Timothy caught her as she collapsed, utterly drained. "I've got you," he murmured, cradling her gently. "You were incredible." Mary managed a weak smile. "We make a good team." As Timothy carried her out of the crumbling temple, his mind raced with the implications of what he'd just witnessed. Mary was more powerful than either of them had imagined, and that power would make her a target for forces beyond his comprehension. But as he looked down at her peaceful face, Timothy knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The fire crackled softly, its flickering light casting warm shadows across the cave walls. Timothy sat against the rough stone, his gaze drifting toward Mary as she rested a few feet away. The emerald glow of her skin seemed to intensify with each passing moment, a soft, otherworldly radiance that illuminated the damp, dark space around her. She shifted slightly, the tattered fabric of her dress slipping from her shoulder. The glow accented her figure, the smooth contours of her form like a sculpture brought to life. Timothy couldn't help but notice the way her every movement carried an effortless grace, as if she were in tune with some rhythm he could not hear. Her golden eyes, half closed in contemplation, caught the light, shining with an almost hypnotic allure. "You're quiet tonight," Mary said softly, her melodic voice breaking the silence. She turned to him, her gaze steady and curious. "What are you thinking about, Timothy?" He hesitated, unsure how to put his thoughts into words. "I was just marveling at you, I suppose. You're different, not just because of what you are, but because of who you are. I've never met anyone like you." Mary smiled, her lips curving in a way that sent a jolt through him. "You flatter me, but I think there's more on your mind than admiration." Timothy ran a hand through his hair, chuckling nervously. "Caught me again. You're perceptive, I'll give you that." She leaned forward slightly, the soft glow of her skin casting a halo around her face. Her features were impossibly delicate, high cheekbones, full lips, and eyes that seemed to pierce through his defenses. Yet there was strength in her, a quiet resilience that only made her beauty more compelling. "Tell me," she said, her voice low and inviting, "what is it you're holding back?" Timothy took a deep breath. "I've spent most of my life keeping people at arm's length, Mary. Trust doesn't come easily for me. But with you, it's different. I don't understand why, but it is." Mary moved closer, her emerald glow casting him in a gentle light. She reached out, her fingers brushing his hand, and Timothy felt a warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with the fire. "You've risked everything for me," she said, her voice a whisper. "I see the walls you've built around yourself, Timothy, but I also see the man behind them." Timothy swallowed, his pulse quickening as she leaned closer. Her scent was intoxicating, a blend of floral notes and something uniquely alien. He found himself captivated by her every detail, the shimmer of her skin, the softness of her expression, the way her hair fell in cascading waves that seemed to absorb the firelight. "I'm afraid," Timothy admitted, his voice barely audible, "not of you, but of losing myself, of feeling something I can't control." Mary cupped his face in her hands, her touch impossibly gentle. "Timothy," she murmured, her golden eyes locking onto his, Sometimes losing yourself is the only way to truly find what you've been searching for. Her words struck a chord deep within him, unraveling the last threads of his restraint. Slowly he leaned in, their breaths mingling in the cool cave air. When their lips met, it was as if the universe itself paused. The kiss was tender at first, exploratory, but it deepened quickly, igniting a fire between them that had been smoldering since the moment they met. Mary's hands moved to his shoulders, her touch electric, while Timothy's arms encircled her, pulling her closer. The world around them seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them entwined in the raw, unspoken connection they had been fighting to resist. As the moments stretched into eternity, Timothy marveled at her beauty. The glow of her skin bathed them both in a soft light, her every curve a masterpiece of elegance and strength. Her golden eyes, now half-lidded with desire, reflected an intensity that matched his own. She was unlike anyone he had ever known, vulnerable yet unyielding, delicate yet powerful. Mary's voice broke through the haze, her tone a mix of urgency and tenderness. "Timothy," she whispered, her lips brushing against his, "don't hold back." With those words, any remaining barriers crumbled. Their movements became a dance of passion and trust, each touch, each caress, an unspoken promise of acceptance and understanding. Mary's glow seemed to envelop them, the cave transformed into a sanctuary of warmth and light. Time lost all meaning as they gave in to the moment, their connection transcending words. In Mary's arms, Timothy felt a completeness he had never known, a sense of belonging that defied logic. And as their breaths slowed and the fire crackled softly in the background, he realized that, for the first time in years, he was no longer alone. The first light of dawn filtered through the cave entrance, casting a soft glow on Timothy and Mary's entwined forms. They stirred slowly, reluctant to break the peaceful moment after a night of passion and connection. Timothy gazed at Mary, her emerald skin shimmering in the morning light. Despite the dire circumstances, he couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment. "Morning, Princess," he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Mary's golden eyes fluttered open, a smile playing at her lips. "I could get used to waking up like this," she purred, stretching languidly. Their moment of tranquility was short-lived. Reality crashed back as Timothy's enhanced hearing picked up the distant whine of search vessels. He sprang to his feet, instantly alert. "We need to move. They're getting closer." As they hurriedly gathered their meager supplies, Mary's face darkened. "Timothy, there's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice heavy with emotion. "About who's really behind all this." Timothy paused, sensing the weight of her words. "I'm listening." Mary took a deep breath. "It's my family. My father, mother, and 2 sisters. They're the ones who sent these soldiers to kill me." Timothy's eyes widened in shock. "Your own flesh and blood? Why?" "They think I'm weak, spineless," Mary spat, bitterness creeping into her voice. "Incapable of ruling. They saw my empathy as a liability, my powers as a threat. So they decided to eliminate me under the guise of a diplomatic mission gone wrong." Timothy's fist clenched, rage boiling in his veins. "Those bastards," he growled. "How could they do that to their own daughter?" Mary's eyes flashed with a determination Timothy hadn't seen before. "They underestimated me. All my life, I've tried to be the perfect, obedient princess. But now?" She stood tall, power radiating from her very being. "Now, I'm ready to show them exactly what I'm capable of." Timothy studied her face, seeing the steel beneath the beauty. "What are you saying, Mary?" "I'm saying it's time to stop running," she declared. "It's time to take back what's rightfully mine." Timothy nodded slowly, a grim smile spreading across his face. Well, princess, looks like we're mounting a coup. I'm with you, even if it kills me. Mary's expression softened for a moment. She cupped Timothy's face in her hands. I won't let that happen. We're in this together, remember? Their eyes met, an unspoken promise passing between them. Then, with renewed purpose, they set out to face their destiny. The journey to Mary's homeworld was fraught with danger. They hijacked a small transport, narrowly evading patrols and dodging through treacherous asteroid fields. But as they neared their destination, it became clear that Mary's powers had evolved beyond anything they could have imagined. As they approached the heavily guarded royal spaceport, Timothy tensed, ready for a fight. But Mary simply smiled, a predatory glint in her eye. "Watch this," she whispered. She strode confidently down the ship's ramp, her tattered white dress somehow looking regal. The guards raised their weapons, then froze. Timothy watched in amazement as Mary's pheromones took effect. The once hostile soldiers lowered their guns, their eyes glazing over with adoration. "My lady," one guard stammered, bowing deeply. "Welcome home. How may we serve you?" Mary's voice was honey-sweet, laced with an undercurrent of steel. "You will escort us to the palace. Anyone who tries to stop us is to be dealt with." The guards nodded eagerly, falling into step behind Mary and Timothy. As they made their way through the capital city, Timothy couldn't help but marvel at the ease with which Mary bent others to her will. Men and women alike fell under her spell, clearing their path and offering assistance. "This is almost too easy," Timothy muttered as they approached the palace gates. Mary's expression was grim. "The real fight is just beginning." They swept through the opulent halls of the royal palace, Mary's pheromones ensuring their unimpeded progress. Timothy's soldier instincts were on high alert, expecting an ambush at every turn. But nothing could have prepared him for the scene that awaited them in the throne room. Mary's family sat upon their gilded thrones, looking down with contempt as she entered. Her father, a bear of a man with a cruel twist to his mouth, sneered openly. Her mother, regal and cold, regarded her with disdain. And her two sisters, mirror images of Mary but lacking her inner fire, smirked with malicious glee. "So," her father's voice boomed, "the prodigal weakling returns. Have you come to beg forgiveness, daughter?" Mary stood tall, her voice ringing with authority. "I've come to claim what's rightfully mine, father. Step down or face the consequences." Her family's laughter was like shards of ice. "You?" her mother scoffed. "You're too weak, too soft-hearted to rule. We should have disposed of you years ago." Timothy's hand tightened on his weapon, but Mary held up a hand to stop him. "Is that truly what you think of me?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "That I'm weak? Incapable?" Her father rose from his throne, towering over her. "You are nothing," he spat. "A failure, unworthy of the crown." In a flash, he drew a ceremonial dagger, lunging at Mary with murderous intent. Timothy shouted a warning, but Mary was faster. She sidestepped the attack, and in a cruel twist of fate, her father's momentum carried him forward. The blade meant for Mary's heart found his own instead. A shocked silence fell over the throne room. Mary's father crumpled to the ground, blood staining his ornate robes. Mary knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face despite everything. "Father," she whispered, cradling his head. To everyone's surprise, a smile crossed the dying king's face. "Well done," he rasped. "It seems. You've grown up after all. Perhaps. You are ready." With those final words, the light faded from his eyes. Mary closed them gently, then stood to face the rest of her family. But where her mother and sisters had been moments before, there were only empty thrones. "Cowards!" Timothy spat. "They ran without even looking you in the eye." Mary's expression hardened. Let them run. Their time is over. In the days that followed, Mary solidified her claim to the throne. Her newfound confidence, combined with her formidable powers, quickly won over the populace and key political figures. Timothy stood by her side through it all, a steady presence and trusted advisor. Months passed, and the kingdom flourished under Mary's compassionate but firm rule. On a balmy evening, Timothy found her on a palace balcony, gazing out at the twin moons. "Credit for your thoughts, Your Majesty?" he asked, a teasing lilt to his voice. Mary turned, a radiant smile lighting up her face. "Just thinking about how far we've come," she said, pulling him close. "I couldn't have done any of this without you, Timothy." He chuckled, wrapping his arms around her. "Oh, I don't know. You seem to handle things pretty well on your own. Those pheromones of yours are something else." Mary laughed, a sound like tinkling bells. "Speaking of which," she said, a mischievous glint in her eye, "my next season isn't too far off. Think you can handle it?" Timothy's eyebrows shot up. "I survived the last one, didn't I? Bring it on, princess." Mary's expression softened and she bit her lip nervously. "Actually, about that, there's something I need to tell you." Timothy's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" Mary took his hand, placing it gently on her abdomen. "We're going to need to expand the royal nursery," she said softly. Timothy's eyes widened in shock, then joy. He swept Mary into his arms, spinning her around as they both laughed. "A baby? We're having a baby?" Mary nodded, happy tears shining in her eyes. "Looks like you'll be more than just my loyal bodyguard soon. How does King Consort sound?" Timothy set her down gently, cupping her face in his hands. "It sounds perfect," he murmured, before capturing her lips in a passionate kiss. As they stood there, bathed in moonlight and the promise of a bright future, Timothy marveled at the twists of fate that had brought them to this moment. From a chance encounter in a misty forest to rulers of an interstellar empire, their journey had been nothing short of extraordinary. And as Mary snuggled closer, her emerald skin glowing with happiness, Timothy knew that their greatest adventure was just beginning. Epilogue. 5 years had passed since Mary ascended to the throne, and the royal palace was a far cry from the austere, oppressive place it had once been. Laughter echoed through the halls, often accompanied by the pitter-patter of tiny feet. Timothy chased after a giggling toddler with vibrant blue skin, his face a mix of exasperation and amusement. "Zara, get back here with Daddy's blaster!" The little girl shrieked with delight, waving the, thankfully unloaded, weapon above her head like a trophy. She rounded a corner and collided with Mary, who scooped her up with practiced ease. "And what do we have here, my little troublemaker?" Mary asked, plucking the blaster from Zara's grasp and handing it back to a panting Timothy. "Sorry, Mommy," Zara said, not looking sorry at all. "I was playing Rebel Princess." Mary raised an eyebrow at Timothy. "Rebel Princess? Have you been telling her stories about our adventures again?" Timothy shrugged sheepishly. "Hey, she asked where babies come from. I had to distract her somehow." Before Mary could respond, a cacophony of shouts and crashes echoed from down the hall. Their twin boys, Jax and Keo, came barreling around the corner, covered head to toe in what appeared to be blue jelly. "Mom! Dad!" they shouted in unison. "We accidentally activated the royal food replicator and now the kitchen's flooding with dessert," Jax finished, looking more excited than apologetic. Mary pinched the bridge of her nose, suppressing a laugh. "I thought we child-proofed that thing after the Great Nerf steak incident." Timothy grinned. "I'll handle it. You've got that big diplomatic meeting, remember?" Mary's eyes widened. "Stars, you're right. The Zalaxian ambassador will be here any minute." As if on cue, a flustered aide burst into the hallway. Your Majesties, the Zaloxian delegation has arrived early and, oh my! The aide trailed off, taking in the chaotic scene, the jelly-covered twins, Zara still clutching her mother's leg, and Timothy awkwardly trying to hide the blaster behind his back. Mary straightened, somehow managing to look regal despite the mayhem surrounding her. "Thank you. Please inform the ambassador that we'll be with them shortly." As the aide scurried off, Mary turned to Timothy with a mix of determination and mischief in her eyes. "Well, my love, shall we go negotiate intergalactic peace while covered in our children's messes?" Timothy laughed, pulling her in for a quick kiss. "Just another day in paradise, Your Majesty." As they herded their sticky brood towards the royal baths, neither of them noticed the strange, pulsing light emanating from an ancient artifact in Zara's room, a gift from a mysterious trader on the outer rim. The relic hummed with an otherworldly energy, its glow intensifying with each passing moment. Little did the royal family know, their greatest adventure was about to begin, one that would take them beyond the stars they knew and challenge everything they thought they understood about their universe and themselves. But for now, they had a diplomatic crisis to avert and a whole lot of jelly to clean up.